What's up, kiddos? So in this chapter they talk about, and you need to know about, when to restrict somebody from the operation or the restaurant, and when to exclude somebody, or when to say, bye Felicia, see you later, get out of here, you can't come back. All right, so there's different things. Restricting means they can still work in the restaurant, they just may not be working with food specifically. You may have them working like in the front, checking people in and out, or like a hostess and that kind of thing. Excluding means you gotta tell them bye-bye, see you later, and to leave the restaurant. Okay, so restrict versus exclude. All right, so if the food handler, and you see I got my book here, so it says, if the food handler has an infected boil or a wound on them, they just need to be restricted. You may restrict them from working with food specifically. You may put them more in the front of the house of the restaurant, but you don't have to totally exclude them and tell them to leave the restaurant where they can't come to work. Okay. Important thing about a wound, and we'll probably talk about this in another video, but if you get a cut, like say you're cutting up apples, cutting up something in the restaurant, and you or one of your employees gets cut, you have to, of course, clean it. You have to put a bandage around it, like a Band-Aid, or they have what they call a finger cot, which I'll put up a picture of, and then you have to put a glove on top of that. So you can't just put, a Band-Aid on it and that type of thing and then just work barehanded. You have to have a Band-Aid covered up with a cover. They say an impermeable cover, meaning that water and things cannot get through to it. So almost like one of those flex Band-Aids that's made of, where like waterproof. You put that on there and then they have to have a glove on over it, okay? So if they have an infected wound or a boil that is not properly covered, you have to restrict them from working with food and put them in the front of the house, but you do not have to totally exclude them from the restaurant, okay? If the person has a sore throat and a fever, okay, if a person comes to you and is like, hey, I have a sore throat and a fever, can I work? They can work, okay? You just may, again, restrict them from working with food unless they're serving a high-risk population. If they are working in a nursing home or a daycare or a hospital or something like that, those are all high-risk populations. If they have a sore throat and a fever, you have to, there's the bell, you have to exclude them totally. Bye Felicia, go home, okay? So if you're working in a nursing home and you're serving food in a nursing home and you have a sore throat and a fever, bye Felicia, you gotta go home, you gotta exclude them. If it's just at a regular restaurant, they are allowed to work, they're just restricted from working with food specifically. You again may put them in the front of the house. Keep in mind, this is all pre-COVID, this is before COVID. Now if you have a sore throat and a fever and that kind of thing, they're probably not gonna let you work at all because of COVID. But anyway, I digress. So, if you have a persistent sneezing, cough, or runny nose, okay, or discharge from your eyes and nose and mouth, okay? So if you've got an employee that's sneezing, coughing, they have a runny nose and they have discharges from their nose and their mouth and that sort of thing. It's weird, but they say that you need to restrict them, okay? Restrict them from working with food, put them in the front of the house as a hostess or something like that, or bussing tables or something. Then you do not have to exclude them and say, bye Felicia, okay? Again, this is pre-COVID. With COVID, they're not gonna let you work right now if you do that, okay? If the person has vomiting, diarrhea, jaundice, okay? Jaundice, you should be hollering out what? Hep A, right? Hepatitis A. Or if they've been diagnosed with norovirus, Shigella, Salmonella, any of that stuff, that is a definite exclude them. Bye Felicia, see you later. Okay, they cannot work in the restaurant at all. You have to report all that to the regulatory authority, and they have to have a note from their doctor and from the regulatory authority or state health department to be able to allow them to come back to work. Okay, so that's the differences between restricting somebody and excluding somebody. Restricting somebody just means that you don't put them with food. You may put them in the front of the restaurant as a hostess or something like that. Excluding means they're not allowed to set foot in the building. They have to go home. So which is kind of like common sense kind of thing, right? So if they've got norovirus, Shigella, jaundice, which is Hep A, E. coli, Salmonella, any of that kind of stuff, you exclude them by, you cannot come in the restaurant, sorry, and they have to have a note from their doctor and a note from the regulatory authority. Sore throat and fever, just kind of weird. They say that they can work, they just can't work in a high-risk population, okay? Again, this is all pre-coronavirus. With coronavirus, things have changed. They're probably not going to let you work anywhere, but I don't know that they've changed the specific ServSafe certification test. So if they're going by the old ServSafe certification test, if if you have sore throat and fever, you cannot work at a high-risk population. Okay? Hope you have a great rest of your day. See you later. It's Friday for us. Have a great weekend.